Welcome to our channel Hashmi Clinics.
All right, colleagues, welcome. Today we're going to tackle a real heavy hitter, a remedy that you absolutely need to know when you're faced with the most severe septic conditions. I'm talking about Anthracinum. So let's dive right in. Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the very core of the remedy, its essence. Then we'll build out the full picture, the constitution, the key pathological signs, and look at what triggers it. After that, we'll put it in context by comparing it to some similar remedies, and we'll finish up with some really practical tips for prescribing. All right, first up, the septic core. To really get a handle on Anthracinum, you've got to understand where it comes from and the sheer destructive power it represents. So, as you can see, this is a nosode made from the anthrax poison itself. And that origin story, well, it tells you everything you need to know. Its entire sphere of action is this malignant septic inflammation of our tissues. You need to have Anthracinum on your mind for those terrible cases where things are just falling apart, and fast. We're talking about the vital force being completely overwhelmed, leading to septicemia, gangrene, and total collapse. Now, if there's one thing you take away from this session, let it be this guiding triad. This is your clinical key. First, a terrible, intense, fiery burning. Second, blackness and destruction. Think gangrene, black blisters, tissue that's just sloughing off. And third, a rapid and profound septic prostration. Burning, blackness, prostration. These three things are going to show up again and again. You absolutely have to commit them to memory. Okay, so now that we have the core essence, let's look at the patient. How does this internal septic state actually show up in the person? Mentally, emotionally, and physically? This is such a powerful idea, and it's a relatively newer understanding of the remedy's mental state. Think about it. An emotional abscess. It's this incredibly painful experience, maybe a deep grief that gets walled off inside, just like a physical abscess. It's a pocket of internal decay, of unresolved suffering that the person just can't seem to get rid of. So what you see on the surface can be really misleading. There's this hidden grief, this emotional deadness. They can seem quiet, mild, almost like they feel nothing. They look old and tired, and they certainly don't talk about their suffering. But underneath all that, there's a septic emotional state just festering. And that's the key duality. In their chronic state, it's all walled off. But when that septic fever hits, bam, the anxiety, the delirium, the restlessness, it all comes bursting out. And this is where it all connects, right? The internal state of collapse is perfectly mirrored in the physical. It's a beautiful, if terrifying, example of the psyche-soma connection. What's happening emotionally is happening physically. The body is literally showing us that exact same septic process.
And physically, it's a total system failure. This isn't just being tired, this is profound, rapid prostration. The kind of exhaustion that comes with a sinking, weak, frequent pulse. A pulse that's telling you the whole system is about to fail. You see septic fevers with delirium, fainting, swollen hard glands. It's a picture of true septic collapse, and you need a deep-acting remedy like this to even touch it.
Okay, let's get into the specifics now. What are the unmistakable signs, the confirmatory symptoms that tell you, yes, this is Anthracinum? All right, the hemorrhages. This is a huge one. When an Anthracinum patient bleeds, the blood is black, thick, and tar-like. It doesn't clot properly. It's already decomposing. And it can come from anywhere, the nose, the mouth, the bowels. It's as if the blood itself has given up, lost its life force, just like the patient. Now, look at how this plays out on the skin. It often starts with something small, maybe a suspicious insect bite or a little wound. But then it progresses with terrifying speed. You get rapid swelling, red streaks shooting up the lymphatics, and then these black or blue blisters form. That's the signal of deep tissue death. Before you know it, we're talking 24, maybe 48 hours, you have full-blown gangrene with this horribly offensive discharge. The speed of it all is just astonishing. So you'll see things like a succession of boils or carbuncles, not just one, but one after another. Malignant pustules, dissecting wounds that go bad fast, and a felon or whitlow of the worst kind with sloughing tissue. And look at this last one, a hard, stony swelling of the right lower jaw and its glands. That's one of those little peculiar symptoms that if you see it, should make you sit up and pay close attention. Okay, here's a real pearl for you, an abscess of the nasal septum. Now, you're not going to see this every day, it's rare, but if you do see it, it is a screamingly loud indicator for Anthracinum. It's one of those strange, rare, and peculiar symptoms that just locks in the prescription for you. All right, let's talk causation and modalities. What kicks off this terrible state and what makes it better or worse? This is absolutely crucial for accurate prescribing. When you look at the causes, the theme is always the same: sepsis. It's about being poisoned. It could be a nasty insect sting, a dissecting wound that gets infected, or even just absorbing pus or inhaling foul odors, like in a dissecting room. Essentially, the body has been poisoned by the products of decay. The modalities here are pretty straightforward, but really important. Basically, any septic input makes them worse. But here's an interesting one. They can feel better from discharges. This sounds a lot like lachesis, right? The flow from an abscess, for example, can bring a very real sense of relief. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's place Anthracinum in context with some other big remedies. Its picture can definitely resemble a few others, so knowing how to tell them apart is absolutely key for a successful prescription. So here's the classic question. When arsenicum fails, what do you do next? I mean, you have a case that just screams arsenicum. The burning, the prostration, the anxiety, you give it and nothing. Or maybe it just doesn't touch the burning pain. That is when you must think of Anthracinum. This is probably its most famous clinical indication. So how do you tell them apart? Two main things. First, the burning. Arsenicum's burning is famously better for heat, right? Anthracinum's burning is often not relieved by heat. That's a huge difference. Second, the sheer depth of the pathology. Anthracinum's collapse is just deeper. It's a more profound septic state with more gangrenous destruction. Arsenicum has prostration for sure, but Anthracinum's is a whole other level of septic collapse. And the mentals are different too. That walled-off hidden grief in Anthracinum versus the very overt anxiety and fear of death in arsenicum. And it's not just arsenicum. You might think of lachesis or pyrogen, but again, look for the key differences. Lachesis lesions are more purplish or dark blue, and you often have that left-sidedness and the classic loquacity. Pyrogen is all about that strange discrepancy between the pulse and the temperature. Anthracinum, though, it's black. The discharges are black, the lesions are black, the blood is tar-like, and the prostration is just deeper. Think of it this way. Lachesis is purplish and chatty, pyrogen is rustless and weird, but Anthracinum is black, silent, and collapsing. All right, let's wrap this up by putting it all together into a practical checklist. These are the things you want to tick off in your mind when you're considering this remedy in the clinic. So here's your checklist. First, is there a clear septic state? Yes? Okay. Do you have our keynote trio? Burning, blackness, and prostration? Check. Have you already tried arsenicum and it failed to relieve that terrible burning? Big check. Are the hemorrhages black and tar-like? Is there a succession of boils, a history of a suspicious insect bite, or a dissecting wound? When you see these things lining up, especially after arsenicum has failed, you've got a very strong case for Anthracinum. This is a remedy that literally saves lives when others have failed. I want to leave you with this quote from the great Constantine Hering. He says it's the greatest absurdity to call a carbuncle a surgical disease, and that a case has never been lost when treated correctly with internal medicine. Think about that. In the face of something so horribly destructive, a well-chosen single remedy like Anthracinum can bring about profound healing from the inside out. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What does that tell us about the real nature of disease and the power of the vital force when it's given the right stimulus?
Professor Dr. Rifat Hashmi is a distinguished homeopathic physician, educator, and researcher with over 4 decades of clinical and teaching experience. He is widely respected for his deep command of Materia Medica, repertory, and constitutional prescribing, combined with a practical, patient-centered approach. Dr. Hashmi has dedicated his career to training generations of homeopathic doctors, blending classical principles with modern clinical insight. He is also known for his innovative work in digital homeopathy, developing educational content, clinical tools, and AI-assisted systems to enhance remedy selection and case analysis. With a strong commitment to ethical practice and lifelong learning, Professor Dr. Rifat Hashmi continues to guide, inspire, and elevate the standards of homeopathic education and patient care.